For 100 million years, this underwater meadow has quietly supported life in our oceans. Today, it needs our help. This is seagrass, the ocean's hidden hero. And on World Seagrass Day, we're talking about why it matters more than most people realise. This amazing underwater plant plays a vital role in the health of our oceans, our coastlines, and even our climate. So today, I'm going to tell you what seagrass actually is, why it matters so much, and what we can all do to protect it. Seagrass is the world's only marine flowering plant. It has roots, stems, and leaves, and produces flowers and seeds. And unlike seaweed, it's a true plant, just one that returned to the ocean around 100 million years ago. There are around 72 species worldwide, found in shallow coastal waters from the tropics to near the Arctic Circle. Together, they form vast underwater meadows. Think of grasslands on land, but beneath the ocean. Some of these meadows are so large, they can even be seen from space. Seagrass grows from horizontal stems, called rhizomes, buried in the sediment. As the rhizome spreads, new shoots grow upward, creating dense, interconnected mats beneath the seabed. For pollination, seagrasses rely on water movement, and in some species, tiny crustaceans carry sticky pollen grains between flowers, a little like bees on land. They can also reproduce asexually through vegetative growth, allowing entire meadows to expand and persist for centuries. Today, seagrass meadows exist in 159 countries across 6 continents. They cover over 300,000 square kilometres, which is about 0.1% of the ocean floor, making them one of the most widespread coastal habitats on Earth. Dugongs are probably the most famous seagrass grazers. This plant is their superfood. A recent fossil discovery in 21-million-year-old rocks of a new dugong species highlights just how long this relationship has existed. Like today's dugongs, these ancient relatives are thought to have been ecosystem engineers that shaped seagrass ecosystems by grazing and creating feeding trails which released nutrients into the water. If you would like to know more about the evolution of dugongs, then please see the video, The Truth of Manatee Evolution, on the Benji Thomas channel. Thousands of species of fish, crabs, seahorses, rays, and turtles depend on seagrass meadows for food, shelter, or nursery grounds. In fact, fish and crustacean abundance can be 7 to 20 times higher in seagrass meadows compared to bare sand. Seagrass also supports some of the world's largest fisheries. When we protect seagrass, we're protecting food security and livelihoods too. Although seagrass meadows only cover 0.1% of the ocean floor, they store up to 18% of the ocean's carbon, part of a global oceanic carbon stock estimated to be around 38,000 gigatons. Per hectare, seagrass meadows can store around twice as much carbon as many terrestrial forests. Seagrass absorbs carbon through photosynthesis and converts it into organic carbon that becomes part of their biomass, such as leaves, rhizomes, and roots. But they also store it in the sediment beneath the meadow, which can sometimes reach depths of up to 4 meters. Seagrass slows down water movement, so when tides and rivers carry suspended organic carbon particles through the dense vegetation, the reduced water velocity allows those particles to settle into the sediment. The seagrass root systems then stabilize the seabed, helping prevent that stored carbon from being resuspended. Over time, new sediment layers bury older carbon deeper, where it can remain stored for decades, sometimes centuries, and in some locations, even thousands of years. Seagrass meadows function not just as carbon sinks, but as long-term carbon storage systems within the coastal ocean. Seagrass provides a range of additional environmental benefits. Its leaves absorb excess nutrients from land runoff, while also taking up nutrients from the sediment, and releasing them into the water column through the leaves, effectively acting as a nutrient pump. The leaves slow water movement, trapping sand, silt and other suspended particles. Meanwhile, their roots and rhizomes stabilise the sediment, improving water clarity and quality. These underground structures form dense mats that reduce erosion, and in larger species, seagrass meadows can even buffer wave and tidal energy, helping to protect coastlines from storms and flooding. They're sometimes called the lungs of the sea, as just 1 square metre of seagrass can produce around 10 litres of oxygen per day through photosynthesis, and they're part of a connected coastal network. Mangroves, seagrass beds and coral reefs support each other. Mangroves and seagrass reduce sediment and pollution reaching reefs, while coral reefs act as a natural breakwater, creating the calm conditions seagrass needs to thrive. Around 40% of people globally live near coasts. For many communities, seagrass isn't just a habitat, it supports their food, fisheries, livelihoods, and cultural traditions. So healthy seagrass meadows mean healthier coastal communities. Despite their importance, seagrass meadows are declining. Sadly, a wasting disease in the 1930s caused the pathogen Labyrinthula zostera devastated seagrass in the North Atlantic, with a loss of over 90%. Outbreaks still occur today, and there is evidence that ocean warming will increase the severity and prevalence of these infections. It is estimated that since 1879, the area of seagrass globally has decreased by around 29%. That means less carbon storage, fewer nursery grounds for fish, and weaker natural coastal protection. The main drivers for this decline are human activities such as nutrient pollution from agricultural runoff, dredging and coastal development. Boat propellers and anchor damage also take their toll. Climate change adds further human-induced stress through rising temperatures and increasing sea level. The good news is that seagrass can recover if we give it the opportunity. Nearly a quarter of known seagrass meadows now lie within marine protected areas, and globally there are close to 2,000 restoration projects underway, and I'm incredibly proud to be part of one. Living near the Solent, I'm able to volunteer with the Solent Seagrass Restoration Project. Over the summer of 2025, more than 180 volunteers contributed over 1,000 hours across 41 field sessions, collecting more than 180,000 Zostera marina seeds. Spathes, which are the seed pods, were collected by snorkeling or wading. These spathes are then stored for 2 to 3 months in trucks where they rot out, leaving the seeds behind. This is Ellie Parker, the marine officer for the Solent Seagrass Project at the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, who took time out of her very hectic day to show me around. Thank you, Ellie. Volunteers then sort the seeds by hand in the lab at the Institute of Marine Science at Portsmouth University. It's surprisingly satisfying and a real social event. The seeds are then stored here over the winter in tanks at a temperature of 3 degrees Celsius and a salinity of 50 parts per thousand. Normal seawater varies from 33 to 37 parts per thousand, so this is very salty. This cold, hypersaline seawater puts the seeds into a state of dormancy. The water has to be constantly monitored and changed every week, and all the seeds have to be checked to make sure there is no fungus growing on them. If there is, they are removed. It really is a labour of love. Come the spring, the seeds will be placed back in the meadow where they came from. The technique for this is called dispenser injection seeding. It's basically a corking gun that is filled with mud and the seeds, and you squirt this mixture into the sediment. In fact, we are going out in mid-March. I haven't done this part yet, and I'm really looking forward to it and hope to get some video footage to show you next year. I am very lucky to live somewhere where I can volunteer and also have a bit of flexibility in my work schedule. Not everyone does, but there are other ways of helping. Just talking about how awesome seagrass is will raise awareness. and there are small steps that everyone can take to protect this fragile ecosystem. If you're heading out to the beach with your dog and seagrass is nearby, simply bagging and binning waste and discouraging digging can really help protect this precious plant. When the seabed is disturbed, whether by dogs or bait digging, fine sediment gets stirred up. That cloudiness reduces the light seagrass needs for photosynthesis and to stay healthy. If you enjoy diving, kayaking, paddleboarding or fishing, taking a moment to notice where seagrass meadows are and give them a bit of space goes a long way. In shallow water, slowing down on jet skis or other high-powered craft can make a real difference. The wash from fast-moving water can disturb sediment and the communities living there. For divers, good buoyancy control helps protect the seabed and keeps the water clearer for everyone. And when anchoring, choosing sandy patches instead of seagrass beds helps prevent damage. Anchors and chains can uproot plants, and these meadows can take years to recover. Small choices above the surface can help protect a system that's quietly working beneath it. Last, but by no means least, you can support seagrass restoration by buying this book. It is a collection of short stories, poems, memoirs, environmental articles and illustrations from 54 contributors. It is inspired by, and I quote, the many amazing environmental initiatives of individuals and organisations in Portsmouth, around the UK and across the world. All profits go towards the Solent Seagrass Restoration Project. There is a Kindle version and an audio version is due to be released this springtime. Seagrass may not be as flashy as coral reefs or as iconic as whales or sharks, but it quietly supports entire ecosystems, protects our coasts, stores carbon, feeds communities, and produces oxygen. It has survived for 100 million years. The question is, will it survive us? The good news is that we already know how to protect and restore it. It just needs a chance. And World Seagrass Day gives us the opportunity to celebrate this awesome, understated plant and give it the recognition it deserves. So if you have enjoyed this episode of Salty Sunday, then please like, subscribe, and share with your like-minded friends, or even your unlike-minded ones, and see if we can raise the profile of this most amazing plant.